Everybody, Bill Caskey here. Welcome back to the Bill Caskey Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Caskey, and today we're going to talk about one of the most important factors I think we can all look at in 2025, and that is how do we grow a sales engine? How do we build a sales engine that helps our companies grow? Or if you're a frontline sales professional, how do you build a sales engine for yourself? So you ready to build an engine? Let's go. So in today's episode, I'm going to give you three elements of kind of the first steps of building a sales engine. And then I want to invite you to a program I'm doing on Friday. It's complimentary. It's a 30-minute rundown on this entire topic on my LinkedIn live feed. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, make sure you go connect with me. And then I believe, as the rumor is, that you will get notified when we go live at that time. And I'll put a little promotion up there too, so you'll make sure to see it. But that's going to be 30 minutes of the complete building of the sales engine. Today, I want to give you three places to start though. So the question you probably have is, well, what are you talking about? What is an engine and where did you hatch this idea, Bill? And I hatched the idea because I was seeing sales organizations come to me who wanted more, they wanted to grow their business, they wanted to build construct systems that help build customers, and they were using labor to do that. So they would hire people, customer success people, sales professionals, account managers. They would hire personnel, or what I just call labor. And there's nothing wrong with labor. The problem is that when we look at labor, sometimes we get into that death grip of the industrial era where nothing happened without labor. Labor was kind of that. In fact, it used to be that when you went into a factory, 80% of the cost of the goods was labor. And I think if we continue down that stronghold of believing that labor is a solution to all of our problems and systems and automation and technology are not, then it becomes very hard to scale a business. So what's the problem? What's the problem if we don't build a sales engine? Well, your sales results continue to be inconsistent. Some months and quarters you're on top of the world. Some months you're in the devil's grip. It's very hard to forecast. So forecasting becomes an issue. There's no consistency. You're not positioned properly in the marketplace. If you don't have something that's out there working for you at all times, then it's always happenstance. It's if you create something that you blast out on email and people respond to it, then you'll think, well, I'll just blast out more emails. And the fact is they don't respond to the next 9. And then you get frustrated, then you give up or you stop. So there's a lot of hits and misses and, kind of one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brake. There's a lot of that if you don't have a sales engine. And the last and most important thing is you rely on labor. You rely on labor. I hear this a lot. I was talking to a company about 2 months ago, and they were sharing that they had hired a person, or actually a couple of people, and they looked and they searched and they found these 2 people in different places, and man, they were so glad they hired them. And guess what? After 30 days, one of them flamed out. He literally just left. Left a note. He said it was the weirdest thing. They'd vetted this guy. They'd vetted this person for months, had him interview all of their personnel and their leadership team, and they said, man, this is the guy. And the other guy misbehaved. He misbehaved. I won't say what he did because it doesn't matter. He misbehaved and he was out. And so when you're relying on labor, labor brings with it trouble. Good labor brings with it a lot of positive things. Bad labor brings with it trouble. And so if you want to truly build growth, you build an engine that doesn't rely solely on labor. So here's the idea of an engine. An engine requires labor to build it. Labor builds the engine. Just think about an engine in a car or a truck or a vehicle. The labor built the engine. The engine didn't build itself. Labor came along, applied mechanics and applied high-level physics, and they built this engine with components and products and supplies. So in order to have an engine, you need labor. But in order to create wealth, you need an engine. In order to create an engine, you need labor, but in order to create wealth, you need an engine. So you need the labor. The labor has to be there, but the labor can't be only doing the work. The labor has to build the engine that does the work. I've heard companies or consultants say that you don't hire people to build business. You hire people to build systems that build business. You hire people to build the systems that generate customers. And if you are the laborer, you're the sales professional, then I want you to get this. Your labor is replaceable. Facebook just laid off 1,500, 1,800 people. Salesforce, Apple, although Apple's putting a lot of money into their phone manufacturing here, but you're hearing a lot of layoffs in the tech business. Why do you think that is? Do you think they can find labor cheaper elsewhere? Do you think it's high labor getting replaced by low-cost labor? No. We know what it is. It's AI. It's AI agents and the ability for AI to do what labor used to do. Now, that's not to say they're coming for you, but that's not to say they're not. So you, as a sales professional, as a business owner, as a CEO, have to look at your systems and say, have we built a sales engine? Have we built a revenue engine? And if you haven't, I'm going to give you 3 components today. So that is the context for this. And I want you to solve these problems. Hopefully this goes at least a little bit of the way. And then on Friday, we'll talk more about it. Cool? All right, let's get into this. Step number 1 is there must be an entire shift in the organization's ethos away from being an organization that sells to an organization that guides. You've heard me talk on this podcast and other places about the salesperson of the future is not a convincer. The salesperson of the future is a guide. A guide helps the prospect understand where they are, come to terms with that, become clear about it, helping the prospect do that, and then helping them decide what is the future. What does it look like? What's possible? How can you help this person get into a new possibility? And then once you have current reality and the vision, now you have a path, you have a journey, you have a map, and it needs to come with a guide. That's you. You can get paid a lot of money by obsessing over people's problems down here, obsessing over the solution and the vision, and then become super obsessed with the map to get there. All they're obsessed with is they want to get from here to here. They don't know what the map is. That's you. Guides have maps. So point number 1 is everybody in your company needs to stop thinking of yourself as a sales organization and think of yourself as an organization of guides. You're always helping guide the people. Now, why do I say this is important in building a sales engine? Because some of the things I'm going to be asking you to do fall underneath the guide aspect and category, not underneath the sales category. So I'm going to give you something here in a minute that it fits right nicely underneath the category of guide. All right, so number 1 is change your culture. Now, you know that takes more than one email or one memo. Remember the old interoffice memos? But you got to start. The number 2 strategy for building a sales engine is you have to know what your customer is up to. So yes, you want to go from where they are to where they want to be, and you are the guide. That's the mentality of the guide. But at some point, you need a map. You need to be clear, and your people inside your company need to be clear about where you take people and how you get them there. I mean the actual map. I'm not talking about the mentality of a map like we talked about in number 1. I'm talking about the actual map. So when a prospect comes to you, and let's just say they're a suspect. They don't know you. They kind of have a feeling you might be able to help them, but they might download something or they might hit your website and ask for information. That process from there all the way until they are at their vision, and I know that might be a long trek, but that's the map. That's the roadmap. So part of that is the sales process where you're going to reach out to them, you're going to find out, you're going to book a call, you're going to have a presentation capability. At some point, they're going to buy. They're going to say, okay, I'm in, here's a check, let's go. Then, how are you going to get them to that promised land? So there's really 2 processes wrapped up in one. There's the sales process and the delivery process, or the map to the delivery process. So if you don't have either one of those, you're not going to be able to build a sales engine. You just can't do it. How would you build a sales engine if you haven't even mapped out the customer's journey from point A to point B, sales process, delivery process, solution process? You can't do it. So that's number two, is you're going to have to create that. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail on Friday about that. All right. Number three is everything you do in the engine has to deal with either education or qualification. I was on a podcast the other day and I talked about the three E's. I said, we've got to become better at educating our prospects and do that through video, through things like this. We've got to educate people. Number two, we have to explain to people. We've got to become better explainers. We were talking about the skills of the future. And number three, we have to edify people. We have to help build them up. We have to inspire them and be there for them, guide them. So education, educate, explain, and edify. And those three things together will help you as you go down this path of building a sales engine. And again, we want to educate and qualify. Educate and qualify. So what am I educating people on? Well, I'm educating people on the misconceptions that they may have about either my product or about the industry itself. I'm educating them as some of the trends that are happening. They may not know they're happening because they're not in your shoes. They're not in mine. They don't study sales psychology. They don't study hiring and firing sales professionals, and they don't study growth engines, sales engines. They don't study that stuff, just like they don't study what you do and do well. So you've got to educate them. Could be mistakes, could be pains, problems, trends, misconceptions, just mistakes that people make when they go out and try to fix problems. So educate's one. Number two is qualify. At some point, you have to find out whether they have that problem. If they have that problem, they may start to qualify for a solution from you. If they say they have the problem, but you can't get them on the phone, or they just don't pick up your calls, or you've emailed them a dozen times and there's nothing, then maybe they're not a prospect. In fact, I would take them out of your system, or just put them on your monthly email list or whatever you call it. So number three element is you got to learn how to educate and learn how to qualify. And we're going to talk about this as part of the sales engine here on Friday. But those are the first three things that I would start to think about as you build a sales engine. And I know you want me to say, well, just give me the tactic. Well, if you just have the tactic and don't have the background, you're not going to stick with it. It's not sustainable. You'll try it for a couple of weeks. You'll try to post a video like this. But once you have the foundation laid, then everything above it looks easy. But if the foundation's not laid, it's just not. So I hope that's helped today. Those are the first three things that I would start to think about in terms of building a sales engine. We'll talk more about it Friday. You ask what time. It's 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's called How to Build a Sales Engine in 30 Minutes. And I'm going to walk through that with you. So hopefully you can be there, and hopefully this has been helpful. If you want to talk to me or one of our team members, you can go to billcaskey.com. And there's ways you can contact us. If you want to schedule a call with me, there's a way to do that there. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.